Hey, in today's video, I am going to share with you one technique that has been helping me abundantly in terms of correcting my pronunciation mistakes. And by the way, I am also the founder of practice9.co, the website for you to practice for the IELTS exam free. All the practice tests are for free. You do not need anything, only an account to get access to everything available on the website. So check it out, practice9.co. Yes, Practice9 is sponsoring this video. I am sponsoring myself. Okay, so as I said, I am going to talk about the technique that I found very useful for myself to correct my pronunciation mistakes. I know that I have been talking about pronunciation quite a lot lately, and I do also have a video on why and how mispronunciation is affecting your listening and speaking score. So check it out before watching this video. Before we start anything, I would like to clarify because I know a lot of you would like to jump right into the comment section and tell me this video is not about accent. It has nothing to do with accent. And I am not talking about the general English that you are using for your daily conversations. I am talking about the English for an exam. And in particular, the exam here is the IELTS exam because pronunciation is one of the criteria to assess your speaking performance. Just like the majority of people, I learned English as a second language. I started learning English when I was 8 years old, which was kind of early, in my opinion. I spent the entire school time learning grammar. And I did a lot of grammar exercises. I did a lot of grammar quizzes. I was quite good at grammar. But by the time I was 20 years old, I could not speak a word of English. I could not understand anything that anyone was talking to me. So that was the reason I decided to take pronunciation seriously. And that was when everything changed for the better for me. So I do understand your frustration when it comes to mispronunciation. But let me be clear with you. There is no quick fix in terms of correcting your pronunciation because there is nothing that can break a habit overnight. The way that you are pronouncing a word is your habit. And in order to break a habit, you need time, you need commitment, you need effort. So if you do not put in the time, you do not put in the work, you do not put in the commitment, maybe it's not going to work out. So this is what I do when it comes to a pronunciation mistake. The first and also the most important and also the hardest part and the hardest step of the entire process is to recognize your mistakes. Now, it is very difficult and almost impossible for you to self-recognize your mistakes, okay? Because we don't know what mistakes we are making. And in order to get some glimpse of the mistakes that we are making, we need somebody to be there to tell us, hey, you make this mistake. But it is kind of not very polite to point out people's mispronunciations without them asking for it, right? That is why, in my opinion, it is not okay to just go out there and point out the pronunciation mistakes of other people. And we cannot count on other people to tell us the pronunciation mistakes we are making. Now, if you have a teacher, you have some advantages here. But let me be frank with you, okay? You are not in the classroom all the time. You will be in the classroom, let's say 3 times a week and 1 to 2 hours each time. You will not have a lot of time with your teacher. And in the class, your teacher will be focusing on other students as well. And if you are having a one-on-one lesson, maybe your teacher will be focusing on something else even. Having said that, the thing here is that you need to be conscious of your pronunciation and you need to, proactively find the mistakes that you are making and proactively fix it. There are 3 ways you can do to recognize your own mistakes. The first one, and in my opinion is also the easiest one, is to be conscious of the weaknesses that you have. So we all learn English from a language. I learned English from my language, which is Vietnamese. And in my language, we do not pronounce the ending sounds of words. That is why I faced a lot of problems because my old self would say lie, like, light, lime, exactly the same as lie. no ending sound, right? That is why whenever I wanted to say I like you, I would say I like you. Uh, it does change the meaning, but context matter. I didn't say it to a lot of people, but yeah, whatever. Anyway, so get back to the story. When I started to take pronunciation seriously, I realized that I got this mistake, and I realized that it was my weakness. Whenever I spoke, I was so conscious about the pronunciation mistakes, and I was so conscious about, the ending sounds of words. Slowly, I built up a new habit of pronouncing the ending sounds of words. And now I think I'm quite okay. Sometimes I still find myself having some slips, but that's fine. I think I can handle it. I can recognize my own mistakes. And ever since I realized my weaknesses, which is the lack of ending sounds in pronunciation, I started to improve significantly. That is the first way to recognize your mistakes. And the second way to do it is to pay attention to other people's pronunciation. In my opinion, learning from other people is one of the best ways to learn. You learn their rights and you can also learn from their wrongs. I have two stories to back this theory up. So, I used to pronounce the word police as police. I don't know why, and I don't know from where I learned that. I don't remember exactly who I was talking to when I realized the mispronunciation. So I heard people say police instead of police. And I was curious. I was like, okay, let me check the dictionary. And I found out I was wrong. It was quite a shock to me because police was and is a common word. And I didn't know why I made this mistake. And I realized that sometimes people didn't understand what I was saying because I said it as police and they didn't understand. Anyway, so it took me some time to change my pronunciation and to correct my pronunciation mistake. And now I think I'm quite okay with that. The second story is about the word development. And I remember this vividly. I was watching a clip from Ellen DeGeneres' show on Facebook when I heard her say development. Now, of all my life, I had always been pronouncing the word as development. And I was like, oh no, mispronunciation. But again, I was curious. So I checked with a dictionary, my favorite dictionary of all time, the Cambridge Dictionary. And I found out that I was wrong. It was also a shock to me because I was using that word a lot and nobody had any issues, any problems understanding what I was trying to say, even though I was saying development. And the reason for that, I mentioned in the previous video about how mispronunciation is affecting your listening and speaking. So check it out. You will learn the reason. So I was struggling. I was like, should I correct myself or should I not correct myself? So I decided to correct myself, and it took me quite some time. I think it was like a month something, but eventually I got it. And now I say it as development, not development. But as you see, only by paying attention to other people's pronunciation, I helped myself at least two words now. I have corrected two words, two pronunciations for myself. And a lot of my correction came from paying attention to other people's work and other people's pronunciation. And I am quite happy with the result. I think it is an effective way and also a very active way to learn. And again, if we listen to other people and we realize that they are pronouncing the word differently from the way we pronounce it, there are two possibilities here. The first one is that, okay, we are right and they are wrong. But again, check with the dictionary because you never know. If you realize that you are right, that's good. You can put an end to the question. Am I right or am I wrong? Right? But if you check with the dictionary and you find out that you are wrong, it is time for you to correct because you know a mistake. It is easier for you to correct yourself right now. That is the second way. The third way to self recognize the mistakes is to randomly check the common word and the pronunciation of the common words. So I'm not talking about words that you recently learned because those are the words that you actively learned because you're trying for the IELTS exam. I'm talking about words that somebody taught you, like your teachers, your friends, and somebody else. Those words might have come from people who were pronouncing it incorrectly, and you learned it and you took the wrong pronunciation as your pronunciation. So whenever you see a piece of paper with words on it, or maybe whenever you hear something, maybe it's time for you to check the common words. Pick one common word and go to the dictionary of your choice, check the pronunciation of the word. And again, if you find out that you have been pronouncing it correctly, congratulations, well done. But if you find out that you are not correct, it's time to check. It's time to correct yourself. And it's good because, okay, now you can fix it. After you have recognized your mistakes, it is time for you to fix it. Now, the second step in this technique is to repeat the new pronunciation. I would highly recommend you use the same dictionary that you used to check the pronunciation so that you have the consistency of what you see and what you hear. I would also recommend you use a reliable dictionary because you do not want to go from one mistake to another just because you use the wrong dictionary, right? There are so many dictionaries online, and I'm not saying which one is the best, of course. My preference is the Cambridge Dictionary. But if you like something else, like the Oxford, go ahead and do it. But make sure that you use a good and a reliable dictionary. Now, after you have checked the pronunciation, you know that it is a mistake, and now it's time for you to correct it. Look at the transcript of the word. There is a small button next to the transcription, and you can click on it. You can listen to the pronunciation, either the UK one or the US one, whatsoever. Try to repeat exactly what you hear from the recording of the word. Repeat one time, two times, again, and again, until you feel comfortable with the new pronunciation of the word. When you feel comfortable with the pronunciation of the word, it is time for you to read aloud the examples, because eventually you will need to put words in sentences to make sentences, right? So that is why you need to put the word that you are learning, the new pronunciation you are learning, into sentences to know how it sounds in sentences. Repeat it one time, two times, maybe 10 times if you need to. And then you can create your own sentences to make sure that you feel comfortable with making the sounds of the word, the correct sounds of the word, and to put the sounds in the sentences, to put the words in the sentences. And if you still feel that you're not so comfortable with this, go back from the beginning, check the dictionary, repeat the new pronunciation, read aloud the examples, make new examples, and repeat that all the steps until you feel comfortable. So this step paves the ways for you to move to the next step, which is pause before you say it. I always have a small rule in my head. When I'm trying to fix a pronunciation, I always pause for about half a second before I say the word in order for my brain to register the new pronunciation, to remind myself of the new pronunciation. And hey, it is not a good pronunciation. Let's change it. Let's just move to the new pronunciation. And that is how I corrected the word police for myself and the word development for myself. Now, this step might last a little bit long, like might take a little bit more time, because it depends on how often you use the word and how fast you can get adjusted to the new pronunciation. For the word police, it took me quite some time because I was not used to correcting myself. I was not used to the whole process so much. But the word development took me about a month to completely, not really completely, but like 99% correct. And I realized that because I was using the word development a lot. I was doing my master's degree and I was writing a thesis, and and the title of the thesis has the word development on it. So that is why I got a lot of chance to practice the word, and I spoke it a lot, and I could fix it in a shorter period of time. Now, if you notice, the amount of time you are going to spend on correcting a pronunciation mistake is much more than the amount of time you have to spend when you learn a new word. So, the best way to avoid mispronunciations in the future is to make sure that you do not have mispronunciation from now on. So, whenever you learn a word, the very first step is to learn to say it. learn to say it correctly. So listen to the pronunciation and make sure that you have good pronunciation. All right. So you will not have to go back in the future to correct yourself. We all make mistakes, and mistakes make us grow, and we learn from our mistakes. And if we correct ourselves along the way, we also learn something else. And I learned a lot of things when I was correcting my pronunciation. And I am still correcting my pronunciation every day. But because we are trying for an exam where pronunciation is one of the criteria to assess a score, we need to be a little bit more aware of our mistakes and try our best to correct our mistakes as much as possible. I am not saying that it is somebody's fault that you have been making mistakes. It is not your fault to make mistakes because you learned English from someone else. And that someone else also learned English from another someone else. That is why the mistake was passed from one generation to another. But it would be your fault if you know about the mistake, if you know that you might be making mistakes and you are not trying to find the mistakes and you're not trying to fix the mistakes, even if you know it, that's your fault. All right. And again, I am not talking about general English. I'm not talking about the English that you're using every day. I'm talking about the English that you use in an exam. And in order to make sure that we can get a better score in IELTS speaking, make sure we have a better pronunciation of words. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I will be back in other videos. Don't forget to like, subscribe, whatever you need to do, all the whole thing if you like this video. Bye!